We're about to make some greeting cards using the free LibreOffice Draw program. The greeting cards will end up like this, with the front of the card, inside of the card, and the back. The question is, how can we do this and know which side is up after it's been folded? Well, here's the trick. We'll take a piece of paper and we'll fold it up the way we would like our greeting card to end up. And then on this piece of paper, we're going to write some words that remind us that this is the front page area. And this will be inside left, inside right. And then this will be the back of the card. And then when we unfold this, it will show us that when the front page area is right side up, the back page area will be right side up, but the two inside pages are upside down compared to these. So we're going to learn how in LibreOffice Draw we can flip the text 180 degrees so that when we fold the card, everything will be just the way we would like it. And once you learn a couple of tricks, you'll be able to use the free LibreOffice Draw program to create greeting cards that will amaze your friends.
This video tutorial closely follows a written version of the tutorial. The written version is available as a PDF file and it can be downloaded for free. To download the PDF file, go to your web browser and in the address bar enter bvres.org and then select the Computer Club option, and when you get to the Computer Club homepage, select the Schoolhouse, and in the Schoolhouse select Tutorials, LibreOffice Tutorials, Create Greeting Cards. The illustrations used in this tutorial were created using LibreOffice version 6.2 running on a Windows 10 computer. The tabbed user interface and the elementary tool icons were used. To change the user interface to the tabbed interface, we'll go up to the menu bar and we'll select View, User Interface, Tabbed. Now it may be that the menu bar is not on the display, and there's a little tool here. As I hover on the different tools, remember a tooltip will pop up telling you what the tool does, but here's a tool in the far upper left that says menu bar, and this is where you can toggle the menu bar on or off. I prefer to use it on together with the tabbed interface. To select the style of icons in the toolbars, go to Tools, Options, and in the Options dialog box, go to View and select your icon style, and I'm going to use the elementary SVG style, and I'm going to have my icon size be large, and then I'll say OK. And those steps will have the user interface appear similar to the illustrations found in this tutorial. It's possible in your system that you may have this page pane toggled on. We're only going to be working with one page at a time, so we'll toggle that off. So we'll select View, Page Pane to toggle it off. While we're in the neighborhood, we're going to toggle the sidebar on. So again, we'll select View, Sidebar. Notice that when we do that, there's a shortcut, Control plus F5. That's an alternative to using the View Sidebar toggle command. The sidebar is context sensitive, and the contents will change depending on what we're operating on. The sidebar will allow us to work a little faster as we create our greeting card. Well, now that we have the LibreOffice Draw 6.2 settings adjusted, it's time to get on with creating the greeting card. If you've downloaded the greeting card tutorial document, you'll be able to follow along the detailed steps as you go through this video. If you've created the page layout model by folding up a piece of paper and then labeling the appropriate greeting card sides, you can use this as a model as you go through the tutorial. The page layout shown here is designed for portrait mode or vertical format greeting cards. You could rotate your page 90 degrees, fold it up, label it appropriately, and then you'd have a model for a landscape style greeting card. We'll start our greeting card design by adding some text to what will be the front page of the card. And if you refer to your model, you know that front page will be in the lower right corner of this unfolded page. We'll start by adding some text to this area. So, with the Home tab selected, I'll select Text Box. Then I will left-click somewhere where I want to place the text and type my new text. Now that I've entered some text, I'm going to left-click with the cursor somewhere away from that text. And you'll notice that the home page tools have changed, and also the sidebar tools have changed. As I use the mouse to move my cursor down into the text area, watch what happens. The cursor changes to an I-bar, which is a text cursor. If I select that, that places a text cursor somewhere in my text, and notice what happened. Now that I have the text cursor activated, the sidebar has changed and the tab has switched to text. So now I have two places I can select tools for modifying my text, either on the toolbar from the text tab or on the sidebar. I'd like to modify the style of this text a little bit, but to do that, I need to be able to select the text. I'm going to digress here and show you a couple of selection tricks. With the text cursor there, if I double click, it'll select the word that I click on. Click, click, selected a word. If I triple click, 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 it'll select an entire paragraph. So the other alternative is with the text cursor in my text box, I can hold the Control key down and press the letter A, and that will select all of the text. So there are a number of different ways to select text when you're using the text cursor. I'm going to go to the sidebar, and I'm going to have that text be bold, and notice there's a tool here. I can make it larger, or I can make it smaller. I have all these different tools available for operating on text, and this will only operate on the currently selected text. Once I've selected the font size, style, and other parameters related to the text, I may want to move the text around a little bit. I'm going to select away to unselect anything, and then I'm very carefully going to watch the cursor and notice that when I get right on the text, the cursor changes to the text cursor, but when I get right a little bit on the edge, actually that's on the edge of the text box itself, the cursor changes to a four-way arrow. Let me zoom in and do that again. Now with nothing selected, you notice that I just have the regular selection cursor, but I'm going to very carefully move the cursor down into the text box area. When I get into the middle on the text, the cursor changes to the text cursor, but if I'm right on the boundary of the text box itself, blink, you see that change to a four-way pointer. I'll click there, and that selects the text box, not the contents of the text box, but the text box itself. When I have that four-way arrow, I can actually click and drag and move the text box to a new location. When that text box is selected, there are also grab points on the midpoints and on the corners. If I change those, it does not change the size of the text at all. It just changes the size of the text box. Let me undo that. By the way, there's an undo trick you need to learn. Up in the toolbar, there's an undo tool, but also Control Z for zebra. Control plus Z will undo the last thing that you did. Now I know how to carefully put the cursor on the text box boundary and click and drag and move the text to a new area. But there's a more precise way to do it. If I look over here to the sidebar, notice the words here, position and size. If I click on that little bubble to the left of that, it'll expand the position and size options. And now I could actually type values in here for the X position. Let me type in a 5, press tab, and now I've precisely located that text box. I can also precisely locate it in the Y direction, maybe 9.5. So you can take control. You can drag this around and do it by eye, or you can use precise position and size locations. As a preview of coming attractions, note that I can also rotate that text box. More about that later. Next, I want to add some text to the inside right page of our card, and if I review the page layout model, you'll see that the upper left quadrant of this page will end up being the inside right page of the folded up card, and you also notice that we have to put that upside down to make it right side up in the final card. And let's go ahead and add some text to the upper left part of this page. I've gone ahead and created a text box here and added some text in it, and I've also messed with the formatting of my text a little bit. By selecting all the text, I can center justify it or center align it. I can also change the font style to bold and adjust the size. And now I need to rotate this text box. So with the text box selected, I'll go down to the sidebar position and size area. I'll click. I could actually use this rotate tool and manually turn it around, but I want to do it precisely. So I'm going to enter 180, and notice what happens. The text box has rotated 180 degrees. I'll select away from that to deselect the text box. What if I have to edit this text? It's going to be very hard to read it and edit it when it's upside down. Let me move my cursor over and place a text cursor there, and notice that it automatically makes it right side up for editing. But as soon as I click outside the box, it remembers to rotate that box 180 degrees. Next, I want to put something on the back of my card, which is in this lower left area. I want to put a silly little symbol in here, and from the Home tab, you notice that there are several different shapes that you can enter directly from there, several different drawing tools. If you want a more complete set of drawing tools, you can select View, Toolbars, Drawing, and notice that that's added a complete set of drawing tools over here on the left side of the display. Also notice that beside each one of these drawing tools, there's this little arrow. The same thing is true over on the drawing tools on the side. There are little arrows by some of the tools. If I select that arrow, notice that it opens up a large collection of symbols that are available with that tool. I'm going to use the smiley face in this example, and with the smiley face tool selected, I'm going to click and drag a smiley face symbol. And as soon as I release, you'll notice that that symbol is selected. You see the little grab bars on the different sides. You'll also notice if you move the cursor over the symbol, it changes to a four-way arrow, so I can click and drag that symbol to a new location. And as long as that symbol is selected, I still have position size options over here in the sidebar. There are some other things I can notice. As soon as I have a graphic symbol selected, the tab menu has changed to the drawing menu. And there I can very easily change the fill color for that symbol. That tool, by the way, is duplicated over here in the sidebar. Similarly, the line around the outside of this symbol has been set to continuous. That's a default setting. There are a whole list of line styles that you can use here. It also used a default width, and if I select that little arrow, I can change the width to something thicker. I can also change the color of the line itself, so I can change that. So once I have created a symbol, and once that symbol is selected, there are all kinds of ways to modify that symbol, either from the Draw toolbar or from the sidebar. Next, I think I'll add a picture to this front page of the card. And to do that, I have a couple of choices. From the Home tab, I can go over here and select Insert Image, or I can go to the Insert tab and also select Insert Image. Either way does the same thing. When I select the Insert Image tool, it opens up the Insert Image dialog box. And there you select the location for the pictures you want to insert. If I go to the Pictures option in this particular computer installation, and then I select a folder, MS Desktop Pictures, I have a variety of nice pictures that I could select. I could also go to a large picture collection that I've created, photographs that I've reformatted to 1920 by 1080, and I use these for screensavers and other things. In any case, I can select any of these pictures and then select Open, and there it is. However, it's much too big to fit in the space that I want it to fit in. So I can fix that. I can use these drag bars to resize the picture, or I could use my old friend Position and Size to resize the picture. Let me show you using the grab bars. I have to be careful here. If I just left click on this corner and start dragging around, you notice that it will maintain the aspect ratio of my picture. That's a good thing. If I hold the Shift key down, by the way, and do the same thing, then I can mess with the aspect ratio of the picture, and that may or may not be a good thing. In any case, you have those choices. You can also use the Position and Size option in the sidebar to resize the picture, and if you want to maintain the original aspect ratio, you need to select this Keep Ratio option on before you change the size of your picture. Sometimes you'd like to have a little frame around your picture. So let's do that. Let's select the picture, and then over in the sidebar, let's check this area where it says Line. Right now it says None. I'm going to select the pop down, and I'm going to select Continuous Line. I think that I'll change the width of the line. I'm going to exaggerate it just so that you can see it here on the video. I'm going to make a 6-point wide line. And if I want to change the color of that line, I can do that fairly easily also. Let's try green. And now let me click away so you can see the result of that. So quite easy to add a frame around a picture. You do it by selecting the picture, setting the line style, choosing a color for the line, and choosing a width for the line. Maybe I'd like to have a drop shadow associated with this picture. So again, I'll go over to the sidebar, and this time I'll expand the shadow option, and I will say enable the shadow, and I can choose the angle of the shadow. Right now by default it went to 315. I can choose the distance. By default it's at 6 point. Let me exaggerate that so we can see it a little better. Made it 12 point. The angle options are 0, 45, 90, 135, 180, 225. There are all kinds of angles you can use to set the shadow. Once again, you can change the color of the shadow. So we'll choose the color options, and we'll make it a very dark green. I think darker yet. And I'll click away and admire the result. Now I've made a lot of changes to this drawing file without saving it, and that's dangerous. You'll notice that in the title bar, this drawing is still named Untitled, and the color of this little save tool shows me that I haven't saved this. So unless I want a blue bruise on my forehead by losing this file, I had better save it. I'm going to go to the File tab, and I'm going to choose Save As, and then I have to choose what drive I would like to save this file on, and what folder inside a folder inside a folder. You'll have to set this path to a place that you can find again, and there is an option here to create a new folder if you're starting a new collection. Once you set the path, then you create the name and click on Save. By now you should have created a card or two and practiced rotating the text when that was required, and maybe rotating a picture when that was required, and resizing things, adding text boxes, inserted some graphics, some drawing graphics. And if you've printed out your cards, you may have discovered that you didn't get things exactly in the best place for their location after the card was folded. You can place all these elements of the card by eye, and you can experiment, but if you try to place things properly just by trial and error, you may end up spending a lot more time and wasting a lot more paper than you'd like to. So perhaps you would like to more precisely locate these different elements on the front and back of the card, and there's a way to do that. In the tutorial that accompanies this video, I provide some instructions that will help you precisely locate things in the front, back, left, and right insides of your card. If you're not in the US and you're not using the inches system, you'll have to adjust the dimensions from the instructions in the tutorial. But if you are in the US, here's the technique that I've used. First of all, I've gone in and set the page margins to 1/2 inch. I'm not a big fan of doing lots of math, especially in my head, so I try to set these things to make it easy on me. If I would have set the page margins to 0.69 inches, then trying to calculate where things should be placed is a lot harder than if I set the page margins to 1/2 inch. With just a minimum of calculations, I've discovered that the front page area will be nicely located if you create a rectangle that's 3¼ inches wide and 4½ inches tall. Create similar rectangles the same size for the back of the page, the inside right and the inside left parts of the page. These rectangles can be used to help locate things so that they'll fit properly in the areas of the front, back, left, and right inside pages. Here's an example of how these rectangle areas can be used to help center things on the different pages. Let me just create some kind of symbol here. I think maybe I'll create a sun symbol. So I'm going to insert my sun symbol somewhere on the back page. Well, I don't like that blue sun, so just for fun, I think I'm going to change to a gradient fill and use a sunshine color. Well, that's just for fun. Okay, now what I can do is I can move the cursor over the graphic object, and I can move it around, and by eye I have a much better chance of getting that in the center of my back page. Now once I positioned that object, then I can go ahead, select the rectangle and remove that, and now I am fairly sure that this symbol will be properly arranged on the back page. Hard to do that without that little rectangular guide, but by creating these rectangular guide areas on the different pages, you'll be more precise in laying out the different components of your greeting card. I hope that you find this tutorial useful in learning how to create greeting cards using the LibreOffice program. If you like this approach to learning to use software, you may want to visit the Schoolhouse, where you'll find additional tutorials related to LibreOffice. There's LibreOffice Writer. There's a tutorial for creating the DVD covers if you have need to do that. If you want to learn how to use 3D text or create your own custom business cards. All of these tutorials and more are available from the BVCC Schoolhouse.